Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the basics. And something that I always say, something a lot of people always say, is that we should focus on the basics. We should always be well grounded in the basics, and we should always build our training programming, no matter how complex it gets, off the basics. But what are the basics? Right, there was a time when to me the basics would have been stuff like starting strength. But as a coach, as a lifter, as an athlete, my ideas have evolved over time. And they've come back around full circle back to what I used to believe in. That was a conjugate method, which I have refined, I coach, I utilize. It's stuff that I use myself. It's stuff I use with most of my clients. So to me, what are the basics? Now, not every version I'm doing in this video in the background is the basics. And I always have to remind people who comment on these are just random clips from different workouts I do. Okay, these are not current. If you want to know exactly what's current, I vlog every workout I do year round with a date on it. If you wanted to see what I was lifting, what my workout was on any day for the last year, what I looked like, you can go back and check that. Okay, they're all there dated. But what do I consider to be the basics? Well, as far as lifts go, I don't know. The 4 lifts I would probably consider to be the basics today would be the box squat, which you just saw me doing. The closed grip bench press, the good morning, and the pin leg row. Right? To me, those are the basics. None of those are one of the normal classic big 3, are they? And by the way, I have all my lifters deadlift, but we use a lot of deadlifts. Okay? We use a lot of deadlifts. I make most of my guys learn sumo early on, but my lifters do a wide variety of deadlifting. But we build the deadlift off of what? 3 of those other lifts, don't we? How do we build our deadlift? We build our deadlift off the box squat, right? Particularly the sumo deadlift, pin leg row, and the good morning, right? Those 3 lifts will build a monstrous deadlift. People say, well, don't you have to deadlift? Well, it helps. Let's go back and go to that. Do you have to deadlift? No, but it does help. And that's to build a monstrous deadlift. Okay? All of those give you the foundation to pull heavy. Those things together. And when it comes to benching, all your pressing, close grip press carries over to everything. Close grip press will build a wide grip bench to some extent. Close grip press will build an overhead press. Like, you get strong at the close grip press, you'll be able to overhead press a lot. It's one reason I was able to overhead press so much with very little specialization. As soon as I started doing it, it just excelled. And I built a press that was better than my benching. I can go back and build it again anytime I want. Close grip press. Close grip bench gives you a better balance of pec and tricep versus a wider grip bench. Long range of motion forces you to use a lighter weight. It's a better basic exercise. To me, that's the basics. It's the basics. Pin leg row. My God, carries over to everything. Teaches you isometric strength in the posterior chain, builds your whole back relatively balanced. If pin leg row was the only back exercise you did, you would have a reasonably balanced back. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying if you did. Right? I don't train that way. I don't prescribe that. But it certainly is a fundamental. Good morning. Again, the single best hip hinge for stimulus to fatigue. Okay, single best hip hinge for stimulus to fatigue. Right? I build programs off of those 4. To me, those are the basics. Those 4 exercises really and truly are the basics. Master them, develop them, get as strong as you can on them, build your work capacity on them, build up your 10 rep sets on some of them. Okay, those are the basics. Build your 1 rep max off of them, some of them. Close grip press and box squat. That's the basics. How about the training? To me, the basics are 4-day upper lowers. It's time when that would have been full body. 4-day upper lower, that's the basics. Very little reason to deviate from that unless you have a good reason. And the fact, if you're bored, your training sucks. Okay? Because if you're messing with conjugate training, I promise you it's never boring. Okay? It is an opposite of monotonous. So if you're changing from an upper to lower 4-day out of boredom, you don't know how to program anyways, right? You better have a damn good reason to deviate from that. And then I would say using the basic conjugate method. That's part of the basics. To me, that's the basics, because I try to put everyone on that. And the fact of the matter is, all of my clients, when they go to conjugate, they excel. I don't even like to transition guys anymore to concurrent training. I love to just take them to conjugate the second they're ready. Who's ready for conjugate? Well, guys who are done with linear progression. Whoa. Linear progression is really kind of the basics. It's the early basics. When you're done with linear progression, you should do conjugate. And my clients who refuse to go to conjugate, because some do, guess what? They make slower gains than my other guys. But I let them do what they want. We try to find a way to keep them on their normal system. But they will make less gains, so they're going to pay me for less gains. But, you know, the reality of it. Anyone who can go to a conjugate system, in my experience, my guys make their best gains when we go to it. They bust through plateaus. I don't care whether they're a 2-year lifter or a 10-year lifter. They bust through plateaus. So to me, what's the basics? The basics is max effort work, dynamic effort work, and the repetition method. Those are the basics. Repetition method meaning we're talking 10 plus reps, usually limit sets. Okay, high rep training. What's max effort mean? Training 1 rep maxes. There you go, you just saw one right there. That was a 1 rep max off of that lift for me. Deep box with that bar, those chains. That's a max. All right. Max effort work, 1 rep maxes. Dynamic effort work, which you're seeing right above. Speed work. Lightweight, if possible, against bands or chains, done explosively as fast as you can for very high numbers of sets and very low reps. In the case of that particular workout, I believe that was probably 10 sets of that. That might have been 12. Probably was 12. But at least 10 sets right there. All right. Speed work. The repetition effort method, which you're going to see right here. All right, 10 rep sets of closed grip bench pressing. Back to the basics. This isn't a fancy lift. I do a lot of fancy lifts. This isn't. Do 5 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10 with the closed grip bench press. There we go. Repetition effort. Maybe my sets of 25 on the reverse hyper. Anything 10 plus. That's our basic training modalities. That's the real basics to me. Heavy singles. And when I say heavy, we mean really heavy. You got to be above 90% of your max. Dynamic effort work, which is usually 1 to 3 reps. Explosive. Repetition effort. It's going to be 10 plus. Could be 20, could be 30. Very high rep limit sets. 10 or more. That's the basics to me. Those 3 training modalities, those are the basics. And that's the only way we can stick to the basics. Do you know why? Because linear only works for the novice. Like linear progression, people would say, well, that's the basics. And there was a time when I would have said that, but it's like, you can't keep using it. Okay, the linear progression doesn't work that well after you've been training a little while. It's amazing for the novice. It's amazing for the novice. For a cookie cutter program. But you know what? If I was coaching someone in person, like let's say that I grabbed someone who was relatively untrained and I was coaching them in person every day, I could progress them in a linear fashion using this stuff, couldn't I? People say, what? Yeah, once they get them, train them for 6 weeks on some basic movements, build a base, throw them straight into conjugate. Why? Once you've built their base, they can't max on a box squat? With safeties? Then we can't take that max and do 50% of it? Do speed? Of course we can do all that. I would. I've had no trouble with it. To me, this is the basics. You know, those 4 exercises, those are the basics. Box squats are foundational lift. Max effort work, dynamic effort work, repetition effort work. That's the basics. All the other stuff we weave into it is the complexity. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.